Hey guys, welcome back to Underrated Gaming here in Norwalk for our winter mid-season showdown. I am Regina Angley once again, and I am joining Gavin Michaels here on round 5 of our Masters. And so we've got on stream Giovanni Costa versus Allan Martinez, which is sure to be a fun match.
Yeah, both of them are Southern California locals. Giovanni, more well known throughout just for his YouTube channel and his top 16 finish at 2016 Worlds. And the teams are Kangaskhan, Gengar, Tapu Bulu, Tapu Fini, Heatran, and Whimsicott on Geo's side.
And on Allan's side, we've got the Pelipper, Ludicolo, Tapu Koko, Charizard, Cresselia, and Landorus. So some interesting things, I think, from Allan's side especially right now.
Oh yeah, you have the half rain, half sun mode, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that works out. Because, I mean, Charizard is kind of canceling your own strategy here, which is a very weird thing. I mean, and it's going to probably be reliant on switching a lot, but that gets countered pretty hard by Geo's team, where we do have the Gengar, and if you know Geo, you know that he's a fan of Mega Gengar plus Whimsicott. So he does have that trapping option, so Allan has a lot less flexibility, and he could end up with a Ludicolo under his own sun, which could be real bad for him.
So, you know, we'll just have to see what happens in like this first match. But I also would like to say maybe Allan's bringing that Charizard just as a mind game, because you know Team 3 is half the battle sometimes. So right here on Allan's side, we are going to get the on Giovanni's side we got the Kangaskhan and the Whimsicott, and Allan will be sending out the Pelipper and the Ludicolo. So we've got that rain mode coming out straight from the get-go. Shiny Ludicolo. It is one darkly colored Pokemon right there. Wow.
Yeah.
This is actually my first time seeing Shiny Ludicolo.
Yeah, so the rain mode makes sense from Allan's side, just because if you expect the Gengar Whimsicott lead to be coming out, if you go with Pelipper and Ludicolo, you can guarantee that your Ludicolo will be faster than Gengar. However, Giovanni mixed it up, and now he can match Allan's Tailwind, which is very dangerous.
Right, so we've got the Mega Kangaskhan coming out, and so I'm probably going to see fake outs on here.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Right, and then we go into the Pelipper.
That's a massive play by Allan.
Very nice.
Just reading that Giovanni wouldn't go for the fake out onto the Ludicolo, because if Ludicolo faked out the Whimsicott and Giovanni faked out the Ludicolo, then Allan gets a free Tailwind up. But as is, Allan abused that and is just going for the free Hydro Vortex onto the Kangaskhan. So very smart play by him.
It's a good turn 1 for Allan right there.
Oh, you've got to be happy with that.
And this animation for Hydro Vortex going into the Kangaskhan, and we will see that getting knocked out. So, oof, that's a little rough. You did get Tailwind up at the cost of your Kangaskhan at this point.
That is true, and also you broke Pelipper's Focus Sash, and Ludicolo no longer has the Waterium Z. So at the very least, Giovanni made Allan use resources, and now Tapu Bulu is in, and there isn't much that Allan can do right now to stop it. So that's pretty smart from Geo's perspective. Tapu Bulu, thanks to the grassy terrain boost, will be able to easily knock out either one of the Pelipper or the Ludicolo. Most likely the Pelipper, just to make sure that Allan can't get Tailwind up. But yeah, now Allan has to react to this.
So, you know, maybe trapping himself a little bit, like trying to get the Kangaskhan out to give Geo like that switch into the Tapu Bulu. And I mean, you know, that Whimsicott did its job. It got that Tailwind up, and so maybe we might see some switch-ins from Allan, changing up the modes a little bit, maybe protecting these Pokemon for later on, because you could bring out like the Pelipper and the Ludicolo later.
Yeah, I mean,
but he's got some options.
Yeah, Allan positionally right now isn't fantastic, but if he is able to recover, he does have the one Pokemon advantage, and that is significant later on in the game.
Alright, so the Landorus is coming out on Allan's side, and I would like to say, because like, you know, we don't have the Mega Gengar on here, so there is no sort of like shadow tag just to keep those Pokemon in from switching out. Oh, and now we've got the, is that Nature Power?
Z Nature Power coming up from the Whimsicott. This is a strategy that we saw a lot of in 2017, which allows Whimsicott to basically have a priority Z move, which is pretty cool. Now let's see which one this goes on to.
It's kind of cool seeing a Whimsicott like have all these available like Z moves to it, and it does go into the Ludicolo, so gets up that knockout.
Oh my god!
Very nice. So
wow.
Good job for Geo right there.
Yeah, that's a massive amount of damage, and he's going to follow it up with a Wood Hammer onto the Landorus T. It's not going to be enough to knock it out, but it's pretty close to it. And Tailwind's still up, so Giovanni was just able to get a massive turn in there. And I mean, if you're Allan, I don't think you necessarily know that the Bloom Doom from Whimsicott is going to be able to knock out the Ludicolo, but that's just really
and then
good turn.
pleasant surprise.
Oh,
So
well, that's a Charizard.
So, all right. Well, so we might actually see that different mode now coming in from Allan. So the Charizard that I was gonna expect it probably because it just didn't fit onto the team as much, but. You know, I mean, if you're Allan, you understand that your raid team's probably going to get taken out, and then you want some options out on there.
Yeah, it is a very cool mode. I mean, one thing that is a possibility is, we'll see in a second, it could be a Charizard X, and then that could just be not so destructive for your own reign. Allan's just going to preserve the Land of Sea here, and is the Charizard Y.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna get that drought coming out on Allan's side, and I think Gio though, like even though he lost that Kangaskhan about like turn 1, he's been very good about like coming back from that like almost immediately, getting like some good knockouts on there. So now we've got Sun out on the field, and Nature Power Energy Ball going into the Pelipper slot, getting the KO.
That's ridiculous.
So, ouch. Right there, and then the rock slide onto Tapu Bulu. From Tapu Bulu,
it is still
Charizard.
intimidated.
Ouch.
But that's enough.
All right, so I mean,
oh my gosh,
that's rough for Allan right there. So
yeah, no, I think if you're Allan, you reasonably expect your Charizard to be okay versus the intimidated Tapu Bulu and the Whimsicott, but no, Gio's using Rock Slide on Bulu. So
there you go. Well, and we saw the HP loss on that Bulu, so we know it's Life Orb now.
Yeah.
So that's I think something Allan should kind of consider going to match 2. So interesting, I think, because that beginning turn where we saw like Gio kind of taking that massive hit on there, but that Tailwind, which that Whimsicott, you know, that's the most important thing that it needs to be doing, kind of just dictating that that battle for him.
Oh yeah. Because the thing is now that Allan knows this, when the Tapu Bulu comes in, it's not just the fact that you have to worry about the Tapu Bulu under the Tailwind. It's the fact that Whimsicott also has this grassy terrain boost, and it's just going to be able to dish out so much damage. It was able to one-shot a Ludicolo. That's neutral. That shouldn't be happening. So if you're Allan, you have to find a way to just stop the bleeding somewhat. Maybe that means switching your mode and going with something a little bit bulkier so that you can tank the hits from the Whimsicott. But otherwise, I mean, this feels like a real uphill battle for Allan if he just decides to go with the same mode.
Well, I mean, also we have to remember the fact that like that Bulu has a Life Orb, it has Rock Slide. That Charizard doesn't like that at all.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those. Oh, Gio did. And it's just like one of those things where, oh, that's kind of unexpected for a Bulu, but you have to kind of consider that going into your second match. So Gio locking in really quickly. But on his side, we've got that Kangaskhan, the Gengar, the Bulu, the Finny, Heatran, and Whimsicott. And on Allan's side, we've got Pelipper, Ludicolo, Koko, Charizard, Cresselia, and Landorus.
Yeah, and we're talking so much about how Allan can change things up, but Gio also has the option of trying to predict Allan's adjustments and just go with his own separate mode, because remember, Gio does have the Gengar Whimsicott option available to him, so he can just switch modes whenever he wants to, and that could just be devastating for Allan if he guesses wrong.
Right, because we saw Allan do a little bit of switching in that last match because the Gengar wasn't out there.
Yeah.
So if that's something he needs to consider, then you know Gio might respond to that as well. So we see the same lead from Gio's side, the Whimsicott and the Kangaskhan, but we see Allan changing it up with Cresselia and Tapu Koko.
Yeah, so those are two Pokemon that we didn't see coming in Game 1, and it makes sense if you think about it. Cresselia is bulky enough that it can absolutely take hits from the Whimsicott, and Tapu Koko, it's still putting a similar offensive output that the Ludicolo was doing, but what it can do is it can just turn off grassy terrain. And if Allan's able to do that, then not only is the Tapu Bulu in a worse spot, but so is the Whimsicott. So making sure that you have terrain control is so much more important here than it would be normally.
Mm-hmm. So the Kangaskhan coming out for Mega again. I will say though, like, I think having Tapu Koko on Electric Terrain is just really nice because you get a lot of like high damage output and
it's so much damage.
And so we got the fake out onto the Tapu Koko, the double hit from the Parental Bond, and Whimsicott getting Tailwind. And you know, Cresselia, I think being a bulky Pokemon too, like Tailwind is okay because you know it's already going to be like slow against most Pokemon anyway.
Yeah, no, the Cresselia doesn't mind, but the Tapu Koko might have a couple of words to say about it. Though that Ice Beam doing no damage, really. Like, I think that's as close to no damage from a super effective hit as you can imagine, considering that that's Whimsicott.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be Focus Sash and no bulk, but Gio clearly gave it its Wheaties, so.
Alright, and so Whimsicott going for the Encore on Cresselia, so getting locked into that Ice Beam, and then Tapu Koko protecting. against a double edge from a Kangaskhan, which is nice because it is double edge from a Kangaskhan. It's kind of scary.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Allan here, you don't mind this, because what you're really doing is, yes, you're getting the damage off onto the Whimsicott, and you're freezing it, which is very valuable here, but what you're really doing is you're stalling out those turns of Tailwind. If you can get rid of Whimsicott before it can set up another Tailwind again, then Tapu Koko, and if you have the Charizard, or even just the Ludicolo Pelipper in back, you're going to be able to outspeed and take everything out.
Right.
You just have to survive these next 2 turns.
So Giovanni protecting his Whimsicott, which is frozen and actually just almost on the verge of fainting, and switching out for Tapu Fini, so we do get that terrain change. We'll have the Misty terrain instead of electric terrain on here. And Tapu Koko actually going back on Allan's side, and we get the Landorus out on there, so we'll get an Intimidate onto both of Geo's Pokemon, and that Kangaskhan doesn't like Intimidate.
Yeah, so what Geo's doing there is he's really just preserving the Whimsicott to sack it later on. And I mean, I think the Landorus T shows that Allan probably has the Charizard back, which shouldn't be too much of a surprise. But yeah, I don't know. You just have to get past one more turn of Tailwind, and Cresselia is sitting pretty. So if you're Allan here, I think you could reasonably just decide to sack something, and then Tapu Koko is up against a Kangaskhan and a Tapu Fini, and that's suddenly very playable. Allan managed to just survive the onslaught very well, in my opinion.
I mean, like, that Landorus we saw took a little bit over half the damage from the Kangaskhan with double edge. So, you know, either you protect it this turn or you just, like, let it go to get that switch in for that Tapu Koko in the next turn.
Right, and if he does double edge the Landorus, then that's a whole bunch of recoil onto it.
Oh, going into the Cresselia instead. So, doing just a little bit of damage on there. Cresselia's still in the green, still pretty healthy. Getting the Moonblast from Finny onto the Landorus. Oh, it is.
Wow.
Alright, so that Landorus is going to go down, and the Ice Beam, the Encore Ice Beam is going into the Kangaskhan one more time. So, I mean, I think Allan was expecting that Landorus to go down this turn, though.
I think he was. I think he just didn't expect exactly how it was going to go down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
expecting the double edge probably into the Landorus slot instead.
Sure, because you assume because he didn't protect that he's probably Assault Vest, but that might mean that Giovanni is like a Choice Specs Fini. We'll have to see later on, but it seems like most likely. But now, Tailwind's gone, and Charizard's in a great position to just clean house. Tapu Fini, even if it is in specs and can use the Water Move, isn't going to be doing too much in Drought. So now it's just how much value can you get out of Charizard right now.
Yeah, and so, like, I think Allan's in a nice spot to just kind of, like, take back some Pokemon, especially after, like, that last match where it was just, like, this clean sweep. And, you know, that Kangaskhan is like a little bit under health, and that Tapu Fini's still at full, but like you said, when that Charizard Mega Evolves and we get that Drought, that Fini's not going to be doing much damage with any type of water moves. So Bulu coming out,
oh, that is bold.
We will be getting the grassy terrain up on here, but yeah, going up against like a Charizard right now, so this will be fun. And then Finny going back as well, and the Whimsicott coming back out, the Whimsicott that is frozen and at 7 HP left.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you're Giovanni here, you're basically just going for a double sack. I mean, it does make sense because the Tapu Bulu isn't going to be doing too much, and you can at least get Fake Out Pressure back. That's the big thing. You can get Fake Out Pressure back, Grassy Terrain can maybe... I mean, it's probably not going to do anything because you're going to reset it with Misty Terrain right away. And Helping Hand, Kiwi's just going to destroy everything.
Whimsicott avoiding the attack even though it is still frozen. The Helping Hand from Cresselia, getting the KO on the Bulu. So very good, very good for Allan, I would say.
If you're Geo, you actually wanted your Whimsicott to go down because now you don't have Kangaskhan and Tapu Fini out on the field on the same time. So you can't get that Fake Out plus damage in. So now you just kind of have to awkwardly go for a Fake Out here. If you unthaw, then that's amazing, but otherwise, then that miss kind of just put the nail in Geo's coffin. It would have been tough to see how he could have recovered for it, but given that he double sacked, it did look like he had some sort of game plan that I didn't quite see. Maybe if Allan doesn't protect for some reason, then he could have, but...
Whimsicott staying like frozen in this, and Charizard obviously finishing from the Fake Out. The Ice Beam going into the Whimsicott, taking care of that, so even it would have thawed out, there's no threat of Tailwind anymore on here.
Yeah, you have to think that this is pretty close to game over, because not only do you have the Charizard and Cresselia you have to deal with, you also have the Tapu Koko in the back. So if Tapu Koko can get a 1v1 versus either the Kangaskhan or the Tapu Fini, it's going to win. So all Allan has to do is pick and choose which Pokemon it wants to faint, and he should be able to pretty easily clean this up. And I mean, I don't know. it seemed like Allan just adjusted very well to it. And to be fair to Gio, the freeze on Whimsicott was pretty terrible. Primarily just because... Oh, we do see the ally switch. That's interesting.
Very nice.
Yeah, but the reason that the freeze was so terrible was it meant that he could only get one Tailwind up. And Gio needed to get 2 Tailwinds up. Because Allan can survive 1. 2...
It's a bit of a stretch, right?
Yeah,
there.
that's a bit of a different story here.
Right. So the ally switch from Cresselia, switching Charizard and Cresselia, and then the Heat Wave picking up the knockout on Kangaskhan and missing the Tapu Fini, actually. So, not like... I mean, Tapu Fini is still at full health, and sometimes, like...
I mean, at this point, there's the Tapu Koko in back.
Right.
And Gio knows that. Well, Gio isn't one to forfeit. I will say that. I think that's the first time I've actually seen Gio forfeit.
Well, I will say, like, I feel like it might be one of those things where maybe he doesn't want to reveal anything else about his Tapu Fini. We saw,
that is
a
true.
couple,
yeah.
like, maybe just one other thing from it. And it's hard to want to drag on a match if you know that there's a Tapu Koko in the back and the Tapu Koko could outspeed you and survive a couple hits.
Yeah, so. No blame for Gio forfeiting there. That game was 100% over. So it's going to be interesting to see if Gio thinks that, do I need to adjust or did I just get unlucky there? And if he does adjust, does he decide to just change it around the 4 mods he's already been bringing? Or could we see the Gengar mode? I really want to see the Gengar mode.
So, and well, I think Allan did a good job, like, barring, like, the whole Frozen thing, he did do a good job adjusting.
Oh, yeah.
And he understood what had happened in that first match, and he was like, okay, cool, this is what I'm going to do to fix it. So, maybe we'll see, because, like, match 3s, I think, are very, very stressful. And so, there's, like, a lot more room for error mentally, especially when you're in, like, around 5, like you've been playing all day, and it's just kind of hard. So, hopefully, they make adjustments as necessary, and, like, I completely lost my train of thought right now. Sorry. So we have the same lead from Gio on here, so the Whimsicott and the Kangaskhan, and Allan going with the Cresselia Koko.
Yeah. So I think this is both players just deciding what I was doing worked. Gio saying, if I didn't get frozen, I would have won. I'm just going to do the same thing. And Allan saying, even if I didn't get the freeze, my adjustment was correct. I was stalling out Tailwind appropriately. I got this. So it's going to be interesting to see which one of them turns out to be right. The Tapu Koko is threatening so much damage that it kind of forces the Kangaskhan to go for the fake out here. And it's hard to see something besides what we saw turn 1 playing out here. Oh, actually, that's different.
So the Bulu coming out. So hopefully trying to, like, maybe get some damage before that Charizard comes out and gets the Heat Wave.
Yeah, no, and that's very good by Giovanni, because if Allan blows his Kickable Havoc here, that's massive.
Oh.
If she does, and not only that, it means that, oh no!
We got the
Giovanni
Bloom
just going for the knockout onto the Tapu Koko. Oh my. Man.
It's such a cute Pokemon, and it does so much damage.
It does so much damage.
But,
I mean, I assume the Bloom Doom's going on to the Koko, and I mean, that was knocking out a Ludicolo, Tapu Koko. I'm
you
sorry.
Can just say bye to it. But,
yeah.
I mean, that's a good adjustment on Gio's side, because he understood that, like, that Koko in the back, when he possibly has a Fini, is just not something that you want to see on there, you know?
Yeah, and it really got him in a position where now he can just do so much damage with his Grass-type moves. And right there, Allan was predicting the Tailwind to go up, but that didn't exactly happen. So he can't use... Because if you think that he has the Charizard out, the Bulu right now is slower than the Charizard.
Super happy about that switch in.
That worked out so well for Gio.
Yeah, so some good adjustments on his side, and, like, I think for Allan, like, that's not something that you wanted to see at all, or wasn't expecting, because I think Gio had done a good job of just keeping that Bulu in the back until it was absolutely necessary to switch it out.
Yeah, what's going to be interesting to see here is how Gio deals with the possibility of Charizard just attacking or the Protect Trick Room. So we do see the Heatran coming out. Heatran is pretty good against Charizard and Cresselia. They can't really do much to touch it.
Alright, so Cresselia going for the Ice Beam onto Tapu Bulu. Probably want to take it out before, like, all the Rock Slides happen. But now that we know that, like, a Helping Hand and a Heat Wave knocks out that Tapu Bulu, we know we won't see it because Heatran's out now. And so it's going to really check Allan's Fire-type moves against that Bulu.
Yeah, I think what Allan was going for there was really trying to read the Rock Slide and Tailwind. Because if you do that, if Giovanni tries to call you a reversing Trick Room, then you can get your Charizard in a really good spot. And I think you've got to admire at least trying to go for it, because now he's still got the Ice Beam damage onto the Tapu Bulu, and that's significant damage. Rock Slide still hurts, and Charizard can't do much right now, but if you can find a way to keep your Landorus T healthy, enough, I mean, switching it in, you are risking it taking damage. But if you can keep it just alive, even if it's at a little HP so it can deal with the Heatran, you definitely have a shot of taking this.
Right. So I mean, Allan's not out of the game yet. He's just got to make the right like moves right now. So the Ice Beam going into the Tapu Bulu again, getting it down to in the red, and the Rock Slide coming out from the Bulu, doing some okay damage.
It does damage, in quotes.
Any chip damage is good damage, right?
That's true. That's true.
All right, so the Flamethrower going into Landorus, getting it down to half, and then Bulu getting that HP restore. So the Bulu does have Life Orb still, so I think it's one of those things where you have to make sure that you hope that your HP is enough to like recover, so you can be around for like another turn.
Yeah, I mean, that turn kind of breathed life back into Allan. If Gio went for the hard read, went for the grass type, moved into the Charizard, the game is probably over. But now we can do some things. Cresselia is slower than the Tapu Bulu, threatening the KO pressure, and Landorus is threatening it onto the Heatran. So Gio has to do something here, and if you can catch what that something is, then you can do something cool.
Alright, so the Whimsicott coming back out for the Heatran. Tapu Bulu protecting itself this turn, and Cresselia going into the Ice Beam into the Tapu Bulu. So good on Gio. And Earthquake from Landorus. So that Whimsicott's going to be the only one taking damage on this turn. But I mean, on grassy terrain, like it's just not going to be anything.
Yeah. Allan played that really straightforward, but I think that you kind of have to assume that Gio is going to do something to adjust, and I think that you're so far behind positionally if you're Allan, you have to try to go for something here, because now the scary thing is that Whimsicott can just Energy Ball your Landorus. You can go for the Ice Beam onto Bulu, switch Landorus into Charizard, sure, but then you're going to have a hard time getting Landorus back in to deal with the Heatran appropriately. So right now, Gio is in a really good spot, even though the Cresselia is threatening a lot with the Ice Beam.
Right. And like, you don't want to switch in that Charizard because we know that Gio's been the only two moves we've seen so far are the Rock Slide and the Protect. So, and we know that like that Charizard is just gonna say bye as if it comes into a Rock Slide.
Yeah, that's true.
So Bulu switching out for Kangaskhan, and so we're gonna have the lead from the beginning back on the field. And Landorus, switching out for the Charizard. All right, so
yeah. So what Gio's doing there is he makes it so that he can't faint. He preserves his Bulu. It can't faint to an Ice Beam now. And the fake tears is more so just of why not kind of play.
Just wait out until Trick Room's over. So Whimsicott, getting the Frozen again. Ouch. That's hard. That's like, ooh. And right when Trick Room ends too. Oh man.
Right, that is rough, but Gio is up enough positionally that he can still absolutely take this. If he gets his Heatran in, then the
Charizard like Heat Wave.
Yeah, then the Charizard can't do much, and he's gonna have a hard time switching in his Landorus. So Frozen Whimsicott sucks, but
it's still recoverable at this point.
It's still recoverable. You just have to recover appropriately. And if you're Gio, that's obviously super unfortunate, but you just can't let yourself get tilted.
Or you cross for the turn one D-Thought, like right
that's
there.
That's also true.
Like, I think it's just hard because it's one of those things where like the percentage is so low and it's still there that when you have it 2 games in a row, that's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
So we do see the Heatran switch into the to the Whimsicott slot, and Mega Kangaskhan appearing on Gio's field, which I completely forgot it didn't Mega Evolve that turn 1 when it switched out. So we get this Protect from Charizard.
Yeah, but I mean, Gio there is just trying to make it so that Allan can't go for anything safely. He doesn't care about the Cresselia. It can only just Ice Beam and Psychic and do very marginal damage. So right now, if you're Gio and you focus down the Charizard, then what ends up happening is either the Charizard faints from the combination of the Kangaskhan attack and the Heatran Heat Wave, thanks to Charizard being at -2 special defense, or you get rid of the Landorus T, in which case Heatran just wins.
Right.
So right now, Gio can just put on all the pressure in the world here, and he did a great job getting Heatran in there, because that's something he absolutely had to do. And probably a bit of a misplay on Allan not getting his Landorus T in there. It's a little bit more of an obscure play, but that's something that you have to do if you want to be winning this.
I think just I think though, just like for Gio, like at least not letting that Whimsicott being frozen get to him and just kind of adjusting quickly on the fly there. And like I think for Allan, maybe being surprised by that ice beam or like not quite sure what exactly like how to go from there, because sometimes you can get surprised by by the randomness benefiting you, and like you have to adjust accordingly as well. So we see the drought, and the hard part now too is like that Charizard doesn't want to use fire type moves, you know.
Okay, we do see the ally switch, so that does mean that the Kangaskhan could be hitting into the Cresselia slot, which could be very good, but not going to matter too much because the overheat's just going to wipe the floor with Kangaskhan to begin with. And Cresselia successfully made it so that the heat wave that was hitting Cresselia and Charizard is now hitting Charizard and Cresselia. Oh, actually just a flamethrower. My bad there. That actually worked out very well.
Very nice.
So,
getting the burn, but like, you know,
that's not bad.
Yeah.
Because if you're Allan, you kind of want Cresselia off the field. You want Charizard and Landorus T to be the things that can just run through Gio's team, because if he can't set up Tailwind, Charizard Landorus T just kind of wins, and that freeze is what lets you do that. So it's going to really try to come down to whether, one, if Gio can unthaw, he probably wins, and two, whether Allan is able to call ally switches correctly, because Gio, if he only has the flamethrower, then he's going to need to hit a lot of successful moves onto Charizard. We see the helping hand come out. Could it have like an powered ground or something like that?
It's got still frozen solid for this turn, so we don't get that de-thaw, the overheat going into that slot, so it will take care of that Whimsicott.
Just
say
to make
goodbye
sure.
to it. I mean, you know, for a game that's full of chances, the things you can control, you want to make sure
can
that
never be too careful. So you see the flamethrower come out. It's going to go out onto the Charizard. It is at -2 special defense from the fake tier, so that's doing a ton of damage.
Right. And Cresselia, you know, the burn does like a little bit of damage to it, but at this point, like Allan, I think really comfortable spot. You could do that like the overheat again, as long as like that protect doesn't happen.
But now Gio has a shot here, primarily because of grassy terrain. So the grassy terrain makes it so that Landorus T's Earthquake isn't going to be able to knock out the Heatran. So if you're able to, I mean, Charizard and Cresselia aren't going to be doing much damage to you, but you can make it so that if you can successfully get that attack off onto the Landorus T with your Heatran, then you might just straight up win the game, and that could be huge for Gio.
Right, so both Tapu Bulu and Charizard protecting, and the flamethrower from Heatran going into the protected Charizard, Ice Beam going into the protected Bulu. So not a lot of exchange on this turn, but Bulu is slowly getting its health back, which for something that has a life orb, you know, means it's going to be around for a little bit longer every time.
Yeah, it's a bit of a wash here, just because, I mean, if you're Gio, you don't need the Bulu alive, and if you're Allan, you don't need your Charizard alive, though getting a double protect off.
You know, after like the frozenness, I will definitely say like that is a well-deserved double protect on there.
Yeah, let's see here. Flamethrower's going to come out. Which one's going to target? Charizard, just to make it so that you're forcing Allan down to his last two Pokemon.
So we'll say goodbye to Charizard, and we're going to see that Landorus from the back and get the Intimidates on there. So Tapu Bulu slowly getting back its health. That Heatran still at full health, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, and that double protect is pretty big, because that means that a potential helping hand plus Earthquake probably won't be enough to knock out the Tapu Bulu. So you could just be able to win the game by going for a double attack onto the Landorus T here. It just depends on what you think Allan's going for, and two, knowing your Heatran calcs enough to know whether you're able to survive that helping hand Earthquake or not.
Yeah. So, you know, Gio not letting that that frozen Whimsicott like really get to him, still in like a good position to kind of take this back from there.
Yeah, no, Gio really dug this game back and just abused the fact that Landorus T wasn't coming in to get huge value out of his Heatran.
Oh, ally switch coming out. Oh, but we do know that Tapu Bulu runs Rock Slide. Tapu Bulu avoiding the the Rock Slide from Charizard, and Heatran getting the flamethrower connecting
let's see which
to
one it targets.
Cresselia.
Okay, Cresselia. That's not bad. That's good damage on it, but let's see which one the Wood Hammer hits.
Very
Wood Hammer,
nice.
it hits the Landorus T. That's
Very
going to be able
nice.
to knock it out, and it's
Very
2v1, and Gio's got this.
Yes, as we can hear him clapping in the background. So Bulu getting damage with the recoil and losing from the life orb, but I mean Heatran's still out on there. This Cresselia is burned. You know, like good on Gio, and like Allan, very good job adjusting to things.
Yeah.
I
I don't think the Rock Slide would have been able to knock out the Tapu Bulu, but the thing that Gio was so happy about with the miss is that it removed the chance of the Rock Slide flinch. And I mean, Gio did a great job clawing his way back in there. He absolutely played to his outs correctly, and he knew that he needed to play around Heatran to get as much damage as he could in. And if he could get it under grassy terrain, he had a shot.
Right.
And despite getting frozen by Ice Beam in back-to-back games, he was able to take it. So great play by him.
And you know, I think both of them did really good because they saw what their opponents did and they adjusted accordingly. And that match 3 was them understanding that sometimes this game is just about how the percentages for the secondary effects kind of come into play, but like not giving up, especially too, was really good.
Yeah, I think Game 2 really showcased how well Allan could adjust. Game 3 was Giovanni abusing Allan's adjustment and just making an aggressive play with the turn 1 Bloom Doom to get himself in a really good spot. But I feel like the Ice Beam Freeze kind of got Allan into too confident of a state.
Right.
Like, once you get that, you just know that, okay, I'm in a really strong position. So then you go from trying to win to trying to avoid losing. And I mean, doing that meant that he probably could have played a little bit more aggressively with his Landorus T than he did, and ultimately that's what ended up costing him the game. Now,
I will say that Gio's double protect also kind of balanced things out.
Double protect was massive, but we still need to understand that grassy terrain was up. It's definitely doable for Giovanni's Heatran to live the Earthquake, especially if it's holding the Shuckaberry item, which is relatively common on it. So, I mean, regardless, I feel like if you're Gio, you have to be really happy with how you played that game.
Especially once you feel like, you've got all the secondary effects going after you, and it's just it's hard sometimes to come back from that and then not letting it get to you, but kind of shouldering on through it. So I think, both of them should be extremely proud of how they played because, there was just no bad match in there, at all.
Yeah, I think if you're Gio, you have to be especially proud because you didn't use Eevee, and that just makes you a winner.
All right, guys, we will see you for the last round of Swiss in a little bit. Thank you again for joining us.